guys, on my last video, a lot of people requested that I do one video in ASMR format. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I bought this microphone especially for this video. I have never done ASMR before, so I hope that you can bear with me on this journey. Today, we are going to be talking about cozy clay.com ASMR stuff. And what I really mean by that is we're going to be talking about the ultimate, the best clay integrations you can possibly build for your B2B SaaS or your startup. I'm going to have to put my headphone in again so I get a free hand.
Maybe now, let's just talk normally, because I can't hold it while I type. I didn't realize this, so we're gonna have to fuck off the ASMR for this video. Maybe I'll get a hands-free one, and then we can do a full ASMR video if it's as popular. Like I said, hundreds of people last video said, please, can you do ASMR? If you ever done ASMR, like, can you do one? So at least we've got an intro done now. So to those people, I hope you enjoyed it. So cozyclay.com ASMR stuff. Essentially, we are looking today at different clay integrations and kind of how you can think about using clay for your startup. So we can say, or for your B2B startup or your SaaS company. So we can say ways not to use clay. So a lot of the reasons, all of the things that I see, like the worst thing I ever see with clay is people saying, like, what should I do? What do I say? Or like the worst one is this, like, when people say, what's some cool personalization to do? Like, you're thinking completely wrong if you begin with that. Like, to cut this video really short and like kind of my entire theory of how at least I would approach outbound, and we'll go into a bit more detail on this, but I think like Eric Novoslavsky really encapsulates it into, I hope this works with this mic, he encapsulates it into a really simple way, which is kind of like whatever you would send manually, let's build the absolute dream $1 million, $1 billion email. Like, what is the perfect thing you could ever say to someone manually? Your dream client, like if you had only one shot to send one email to one client, and if it closed, you get $1 billion payout. What is the email you'd send? What research would you do? What things would you scrape? Like, what would you say about this thing manually? Then work backwards and figure out, how do we then build these data points into our lead list? How can we then send this at scale? And then how do we use Clay to do that? So Clay is kind of like a labyrinth. Clay is, if you're unfamiliar, Clay is like a connector of tools. You can do AI, you can like connect APIs, you can connect native tools in Clay. And then you can do some other crazy shit. We'll try and cover like a few different things in this video. As with all videos, it's completely unprepared. I have done zero preparation for this, and I probably will never prepare for a video because A, I can't be bothered, and B, I think they just come out weird. So yeah. So ways not to use Clay based on that will be like zero preparation. If you go into Clay and you're just fucking around, like trying to build something cool, your campaign is going to be really terrible. Because you have no direction. Like, you don't know where you're aiming to build. You don't know your copy. You don't know anything. So Clay should really be one of the last things you should use. You should never use Clay you should never build your campaign around Clay. You should build Clay around your campaign. Because otherwise, like if you build your campaign around Clay, you'll do some really weird stuff. Like, I get it. The first time you get Clay, it's fun, exciting. You can do all this crazy cool stuff. And you're like, I want to use AI personalized first lines. And I want to say what size is his shoes and what his breath smells like in my email campaigns and all this stuff. But it's like, no one really cares. And you'll just send a weird email. So really fundamentally, if you don't want to sit through however long this video is, I don't fucking know, 5 minutes already. Fundamentally, write the best email you possibly ever could first, take away all the guardrails, write anything you want, like do some crazy shit, then work backwards and figure out how do I build this shit in clay. Obviously, that's not overly helpful. So once you kind of have, what I would say is like, and some way that I often think about it when we're working with early stage startups is like, first of all, you want to think about, let's assume you have an ICP, just to make this kind of exercise a bit easier. But let's assume you have an ICP. When you have an ICP, we're going to really think about like, okay, what are all of the ways that we could identify that this person, this company is struggling with a problem? You can call these triggers, whatever you fucking want. Doesn't really matter. But how can we, like, what are ways, like, without thinking too crazy, like anything? Like, it could be real life things. It could be online things. It could be their bank balance. It could be the way they feel, like anything at all. What are some ways we can identify they might be struggling with a problem that we have the solution to, right? So then we'll write down a list of 10, 15, 20, like as many things as you can possibly think. Then what we're going to do is look through all of these things, all of these 100 things you've listed down, and just cut. Some of them will be terrible. Some of them will make no sense and will be kind of clutching at straws. There might be like 1 in a million people have this characteristic. Then we're going to have a look through and think about, okay, which ones are obviously terrible? Cool, let's get rid of them. Then we're going to separate them into 2 buckets. You'll go through and you'll make like this. You'll make like let me make this a sensible size. List 1 of, I'm going to call these triggers, but you can call them whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. List 2, triggers. So list 1, sorry, I'm currently homeless right now. Not physically, but I forgot my Airbnb. It expires tomorrow, and I have an apartment. It's currently 6 p.m. I have an apartment filled with goods, filled with things I haven't even thought about packing. I also don't have anywhere to move into, so this is really cool. Love that. But of course, I'm making a YouTube video because I'm a dedicated ASMR YouTuber, as you all know. What was I going? Where was I at? List 1. So list 1 is triggers. Is going to be public triggers. List 2 is going to be private triggers. So public triggers are obviously things that we can publicly find out. Like we can find out on the internet. We can go online. We can somehow figure these out. So these might be things like job postings, company news, company revenue, company hires, like any really any firmographic, any technographic shit, right? What else might there be? Some other stuff, like anything basically you can find publicly. I'm sure you can work this out. Private triggers will, of course, be the inverse of this. Anything that you cannot find out publicly, like, I don't know, the color of their hair or the way they're feeling on Monday morning. I don't really know. We don't really use the private triggers, so you don't even really have to make list 2. You can just make this one. You can make list 2 if you really want for research purposes. By all means, feel free. Cool. So now we have public triggers. So now we have like hopefully a bunch of like pretty cool shit. And I would really recommend you try to be really, really accurate with these and try to make like combinations of them. So if you're saying like, they need to be on Shopify and they need to use this technology, and if they have WordPress 7.2 and they were founded in 2015, like these are like a combination of them that makes a really, really strong case, is of course really fucking cool. As long as it makes sense, you're not just doing it for the sake of it. So then when we have like 1, 2, 3, 4 different like ideal triggers, you can do as many as you want. Then we're going to go away and start thinking about like, we're actually not going to do clay yet. So what I would do from here is I would build an email around 1, email around 2, email around 3, email around 4. And like try and do the craziest shit you could ever think of. Like the apps, like I said, if you, the useful way to think about it is if you could pick one prospect and send one email And if that one email books a meeting, you will earn $10 billion. Like, what is the email you send? Who would you send it to? What would you say? Try and do that for all four. Of course, like really you're aiming for, like, not all of the content in here is going to be applicable at scale. That is completely fine. That's completely expected. That, like, if you do that and like you'll work backwards in the end, you're like, fuck, I can't build this email. That's a good thing because it means you've kind of pushed the boundaries of the copywriting exercise. Boom. So then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, like billion dollar emails based on 4 triggers. Like, this is fucking crazy already. So what we're going to do then is we're going to go into Clay. I really should consider upping my production value. I've written about under 100 words in this nonsensical Google document. What we're going to do then is we're going to go into Clay and we're then just going to validate, okay, like, what can we build? We're going to look through email 1. Let's say this is fucking your copywriting. This is your fire email. And you're going to look through like the different things that obviously you need to scratch. You need to find out about each prospect. They're going to be variable. They're going to be your variables. You're then going to look through, just fucking highlight that shit, whatever it might be, blah, 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 blah. And then you're going to make like a little variable list. 1, 2, 3. Let's say you have the 3 variables, fire. And then you're going to like checkbox or whatever you want to do. That's not a checkbox, but whatever, we'll go with it. Checkbox. And let's say, damn, okay, like I've spent 4 hours on this. I'm pretty confident I get this. I can get this in Clay at scale, but I can't get 3. Like, that's cool. So now we just go and update email 1, and we just remove this variable and we rewrite it. But now we've got a pretty fire email 1 that like is our $1 million email. We've pretty much got all of the relevancy items in there because we built backwards in Clay and we haven't been fucking stupid and built our email around Clay. We've built Clay around our email. Now you have a really fire email. So then you basically repeat this process for all of the other ones. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's a very long and short around how to build a cool email in Clay with some ASMR sprinkled in. I have a sneaking suspicion that people will want more of the ASMR, probably want like every video in ASMR format. So if that is the case, just let me know and I can start investing in the required gear to do so. What else are we going to talk about? So cool things in Clay. We'll make a new page for this because like there's a lot of shit in Clay that people are like, you just don't realize you can do. I'm gonna try and go off the beaten path here and do cool things in Clay that are actually cool. Because like obviously you have like SERPA, Google queries, right? Super fucking powerful. But most people know about SERPA.dev Google queries. If you don't know about SERPA.dev Google queries, your assignment is to go ahead and first of all learn about custom Google searches. Just use GPT. When you know about custom Google queries and custom Google searches and advanced Google searches, then you can learn how to implement SERPA.dev into Clay. It's easy. Then you can run your custom Google queries in Clay. Something that like I don't see many people doing in Clay is, and there's like honestly there's not really often that big of a use case for it, but it's Cloudflare workers, right? So Cloudflare workers basically let you run either Python. This video is getting fucking nerdy as fuck. They'll let you run Python or JavaScript environments in the cloud, and you can connect to them through APIs. So what this means is basically you can run JavaScript either through Clay, and you can do some like pretty cool custom scraping stuff. For example, like we had a project recently where I won't tell you why we needed this, but we really needed to find out all of the people on Trustpilot that like people were really fucking pissed off with. Like they hated them. We need to find the most hated companies on Trustpilot. So like naturally, what can you do? You can scrape there's over 1 million companies on Trustpilot. So you can scrape every single company on Trustpilot. and then like manually filter. But then like you've got to filter through a million records of data. And where do you do that? You can't do it in Airtable, you can't do it in Clay. Then you've got to use like pandas and shit like that. And obviously that's not overly fun. So what we did was we created a scraper with Cloudflare workers that would query every company again, because obviously the only way to do it, every company in the Trustpilot thing, and then it would just return us into a clay table any that had a certain percentage of 1-star reviews in comparison to the others. Like that was really, really fucking cool. And we needed to use Cloudflare workers to do this, A, because clay tables are limited to a certain record limit, and B, because each block in clay is limited to a certain limit. So like we couldn't dump all the data in that file because it doesn't show in clay. So things like this are where Cloudflare workers are really useful. I'm not really going to go into too many other things, mainly because I can't think of what else to talk about. So probably going to leave this video here. Have a great evening.